A new report has found that more than 30,000 young children in the UK between the ages 10 and 15 now claim to be a member of a gang. Gang violence is sweeping across the UK. It's not just London, although the capital city does seem to be taking the brunt of it. But this new research, which shows that 30,000 kids between the ages of 10 and 15 claim to be a member of a gang, is really concerning. And what's even more interesting is that senior police have told The Times that the violence amongst children is completely out of control. So this is what The Times reported. In the first part of a series investigating Britain's lost children, Ms. Longfield, who is Anne Longfield, the Children's Commissioner, said that the pursuit of young people by drug dealers was a systematic and well-rehearsed business model. Now, this is basically what happened in Rotherham. It's what happens with child grooming. Gangs all over the country are grooming children, and it's not just for rape. They're using them as drug mules. They're taking them out on the streets, using them as ways to bypass the police, and that's that. And there was a tragic story over the weekend, actually. A 15-year-old boy from Romford became the 77th person murdered in London this year, and the 50th victim of a fatal stabbing in London. The Telegraph reported on this story, and they said, a 15-year-old schoolboy has been stabbed to death after a large-scale fight broke out at a birthday party in East London. Police were called to a community centre in Romford just after 9 p.m. on Saturday evening after trouble flared when around 200 gatecrashers were turned away from the event and began causing trouble. Officers arriving at the scene were greeted by a group of youths battering one another and causing damage to surrounding property. As police intervened, they discovered a teenager collapsed on the ground, suffering from knife wounds. And amidst all this insanity being ignored by Sadiq Khan, a Tory MP has stepped in and backed a scheme that's being trialled in North London. And The Guardian reports, Victoria Atkins, a Home Office minister, backed a scheme being trialled in North London that threatens whole families in council homes with eviction and offers leniency to gang members in some low-level cases, such as possession of cannabis. In a newspaper interview published on Friday, she backed the scheme, saying the government had changed the law to enable it to happen, and claiming it would force people involved in violent crimes to understand the consequences of their actions. And you know what? I am glad to see some action being taken by somebody. The government's changed the law to allow this kind of trial to happen. And yeah, I mean, there's a point there, that making people understand the consequences of their actions. But I want to see real action being taken. And this is a start, and I'm fine with it in principle. But I wonder if maybe it just would embolden gangs, actually, move the gangs out onto the street, move gangs and, create homeless gang members and homeless families of gang members. And that just breeds even more anger amongst the gangs. I mean, they're going to have to go somewhere. I mean, as I say, I'm fine with it in principle. There needs to be some kind of reaction. There needs to be a consequence to the actions of these people. But I'm not entirely convinced that throwing them out on the streets is actually going to really help all that much. The proposal backed by Home Office Minister Victoria Atkins, which would see criminal gang members evicted from their council homes and thrown into the street, is a good start. But it's simply not good enough. I mean, with 30,000 young people now claiming to be members of a gang between the ages of 10 and 15, we need to create a society worth living in. If we want to change this, we need to change society from the ground up. And it needs to be a society where children have opportunities, where children are safe, and where children aren't dragged into petty disagreements and conflicts on the street. The fact remains, if we didn't have ghettos, we wouldn't have gangs. And that's a fact. Instead of simply evicting criminal gangsters, I want to see the police tracking them down and throwing them in jail. I think children should see that there are consequences to criminal actions. I want more police on the streets, and I also want to see foreign criminal gang members kicked out of the country entirely. If we tackle the source of the problem here, if we de-ghettoize our inner cities, and if we create a space, a country where people want to raise happy, healthy families, then and only then can we go back to a time when our streets were safe.